Thank you, Senator Schmidt. Senator Banks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Colby, since we've started this hearing, a lot of things have happened. I don't know if you're not in a position to follow the news. It's laughable to me to hear the Democrats call the meeting in the Oval Office on Friday shameful. And I know I had to step out and go to a Veterans Committee hearing. I had to go vote, but I'm sure I missed a lot of the rhetoric from my Democrat colleagues about the terrible, shameful meeting in the Oval Office on Friday. You might not be aware that 1 hour ago, President Zelensky tweeted. He called the meeting on Friday regrettable. He said Ukraine wants peace, not forever wars. He thanked President Trump and America for our support, even for the javelins that President Trump provided in the first Trump term that kept Ukraine on its feet. But here's the kicker. President Zelensky now said 1 hour ago he's ready to come back to America and sign the peace deal, the minerals deal. Is it possible here that President Trump's unconventional approach is actually very effective?
Yes, absolutely. I think the proof is in the pudding, and I think that's a really encouraging thing to say. I'm delighted to hear the news that we're making progress, obviously, knock on wood. I also think it shows that, trusting President Trump with these and his kind of particular deputies with this kind of high-level diplomacy is really important. And it's not for me as a nominee to be spouting off and potentially interrupting this kind of progress. It's very encouraging. I know I speak for myself, but I'm pretty confident I know very confident you too. You want peace there. You want the Europe and the Ukraine to be in as good a position as they possibly can be. So that's very encouraging news.
It seems like a pattern though with President Trump.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he's
it's Iran. It's our other enemies abroad. It's the tariff approach. It seems like President Trump's unconventional approach is actually very effective.
I think it's very effective, and I think there's a degree. I mean, he's a master negotiator. He's a deal maker. He understands leverage, and he is not going to be calculable. I think one of the main critiques I think we probably all have of the last administration was that they were highly calculable and you could kind of measure it. And so the Russians could kind of precisely calibrate it. And after 3 years, almost 3 years of conflict, things were going worse. And I think with President Trump, you have a very different dynamic. You don't know what he's going to do, but you can get a deal with him. And this is, I think, the point about not, having ad hominems is an important part. It's not, I don't think he misunderstands who Vladimir Putin is, to the contrary, but I think he understands as part of a deal, a good deal, a verifiable deal, a positive deal, and the same logic would go with Iran if, and God willing, he's able to achieve that as well, or make progress in that direction as well. That would be the same approach I think he'd take.
I totally agree. I want to move on. Last year, INDOPACOM admitted to Congress that it had the most unfunded priorities in its history, $11 billion. One of INDOPACOM's biggest shortfalls was missile defense. At the same time, we've been giving Patriot missile defense systems to Ukraine. We fired off hundreds of million-dollar missiles shooting down $1,000 Houthi drones. How wise is it to burn through our missile defense stocks in less important parts of the world when INDOPACOM is so desperately short of those weapons?
Well, I think, Senator, thanks. This is exactly the problem I'm pointing to. That's not to say that we shouldn't be doing anything in Europe or the Middle East. To the contrary, but it's to say if we all agree that China is the top challenge and China is the most formidable threat, we need to act like it, because especially given what Admiral Paparo and others are saying, and Bill Burns has been saying, that we need to act like this could actually happen. I agree with Secretary Rubio. There is a very real threat under President Trump's, in the term that he's been elected to, given the 2027 date, that God forbid a war could happen. And I agree that President Trump has said that China would not attack Taiwan under his watch. And if confirmed, I would make it my business, my particular business, to give him the military strength to back that up, coupled with the negotiating ability, Senator, that you just referred to.
Yeah, on that note, our Navy's not as big as it needs to be. We especially don't have enough Navy ships in the Pacific to counter China's rapidly growing fleet. Despite that, President Biden decided to permanently deploy more Navy ships in Europe to counter Russia, a nation which lost most of its Black Sea fleet to a country without a Navy. Mr. Colby, should we be putting more vessels in Europe when we already don't have enough in the Pacific?
Senator, I think we should be putting the military capabilities, especially that are relevant in the priority area, ships, submarines, missile defense assets, have to be focused on deterring a conflict over Taiwan. And if, God forbid, it happens, giving our soldiers and sailors and airmen and defenders and Marines the best shot. I mean, that's something I feel very deeply is I'm not in uniform, but if confirmed, it would be my job to make sure those who are in uniform or who do stand in harm's way, the best shot at winning, because the American military shouldn't get in a fair fight.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you very much.